Taiwan, a vibrant democracy in the heart of Asia and home to more than 23 million people, is under threat. The island nation has to warn off Chinese warplanes and military ships operating around its territory on almost a daily basis. These missions are seen as practice for what Beijing says is its ultimate goal, taking control of Taiwan. For decades, China has threatened to invade Taiwan, which it claims as part of its territory, and it's been modernizing its military so it can do so quickly.
So right now, the only attractive scenario is one in which they don't really have to engage the United States. They take Taiwan quickly before the United States can come to Taiwan's aid. And that only works if Taiwan's military cannot defend the island for a few weeks.
To try and make it as difficult as possible for China to even attempt an attack, Taiwan has spent tens of billions of dollars on weapon systems from its largest ally, the US. Beijing spends almost 12 times more than Taipei on defense and has a much larger military than Taiwan. China has 11 times more soldiers, 6 times more fighter jets, and double the number of warships. This leaves Taiwan with little wiggle room on how it spends its defense budget.
So in order to be able to secure its, its territory, protect its national security, it needs to be really smart with its investments in sort of getting the maximum dollar out of each investment into defense.
But while Taiwan continues to boost its combat readiness, the country is facing a dilemma. Over $19 billion worth of weapons and systems are delayed. These are all purchased from the US, its largest weapons provider, and some of those purchases go as far back as 2019. They include systems like battle tanks, drones, rocket launching systems, artillery cannons, hundreds of missiles, fighter jets, and the list goes on. These delays are linked to supply chain issues caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and limitations in the US defense industry. Delegates from Taiwan's defense ministry recently traveled to Washington for security talks with industry leaders and urged them to speed up production. Speaking to TaiwanPlus, they say they are confident that the backlog will be resolved.
那美方对于这个所有军售的部分也成立一个专案的编组，来优化它整个一个军售的一个程序啊，是不是由专人专责来做一个协助，来做一个有效的管制？我相信在我们台美双方协助共同合作之下，有关军售这一部分呢，应该可以达到我们所期望的最后。
As the country waits, there are concerns that the failure to deliver these weapons could give China an advantage in any conflict. And it's a challenge that policymakers in Washington are aware of.
I think what we're seeing now is a recognition that the challenge and threat that China poses to peace and security in Asia is evolving, and US policy is evolving as a consequence. And it's the responsibility of our community, in cooperation with the US government, to evolve with it.
The weapons backlog is a problem that could be the difference between war and peace for Taiwan, and one whose solution ultimately lies in the hands of policymakers in Washington, not Taipei.